pretty dramatic events at OpenAI, specifically around their leadership. I mean, we all remember the whole Sam Altman saga back in late 2023, right? The CEO gets fired, then suddenly he's back. It felt like something out of a Silicon Valley TV show. Yeah, it was a wild ride. And the article doesn't just brush over that. It digs into how that kind of major leadership upheaval can really throw a wrench in a company's gears, especially when you're talking about a company that's trying to move as fast and break as many boundaries as OpenAI is. Makes sense. I mean, if you're constantly dealing with changes at the very top, how do you set a clear direction? How do you make long-term plans when the captain of the ship keeps changing? Exactly. And it's not just about strategy. The article highlights that this kind of instability at the top can trickle down and impact the whole organization. Employee morale takes a hit. People start to get anxious about the future. Top talent might start looking for the exits. And the article actually cites some SHRM articles and even points to Wikipedia updates to show how these internal struggles at OpenAI, especially around governance, are becoming more and more public knowledge. So it's like these internal cracks are starting to show and the world is taking notice. Yeah, the shine is maybe starting to wear off a little bit. And on top of that, you've got this explosion of competition in the AI space. For a while there, it felt like OpenAI was just running away with it. They had GPT-4, which was the gold standard. But the article really highlights how that lead is shrinking fast. Yeah, the competition's definitely heating up. It is. And one of the biggest contenders the article focuses on is Google's Gemini series. What makes Gemini really interesting is its strength at what we call multimodal tasks. Multimodal tasks. Break that down for me. What does that even mean? Sure. So think of it this way. In the past, AI models were kind of specialized, right? You had one that was great at text and another one that was good at images and so on. But multimodal means that the AI can handle different types of information all at the same time. It can understand text, images, videos, even audio, all within the same model. So it's like, imagine you upload a picture and you ask the AI a question about the text in that picture. A multimodal AI can do that seamlessly because it understands all those different modes of information at the same time. Oh, that's cool. So it's not just about being a really good writer anymore. It's about being able to process and understand the world in a much richer way like humans do, right? And according to the article, Gemini is making some serious waves in this area. Now, GPT-4 is still generally seen as the leader when it comes to the overall quality of its output, but Gemini 2.0, their latest version, is catching up fast. And what's more, it's reportedly much faster and more cost-effective than GPT-4. Oh, speed and cost, those are huge factors. Absolutely, especially for businesses that are looking to actually implement these AI models at scale, those could be deal breakers. And the article even mentions how some benchmarks are showing Gemini pulling ahead in those areas. Wow, so OpenAI might be facing a situation where they've got the higher quality product, but their competitors are catching up in the areas that really matter for practical use. Yeah, it's a classic innovator's dilemma, right? You're the first one out there, you set the standard, but then the competition starts nipping at your heels, offering similar solutions that are maybe a bit cheaper, a bit faster. Okay, so we've got internal struggles, we've got external pressure from competitors like Google, but the article doesn't stop there, right? It also takes a deep dive into OpenAI's finances, and let's just say the numbers are pretty startling. Yeah, you could say that again. The article reports that OpenAI brought in a hefty $3.7 billion in revenue, which sounds impressive on its own. But get this, they're also projected to have losses of around $5 billion for the year. $5 billion in losses, that's a lot of red ink. It is, and it really highlights the incredibly high costs associated with developing and running these large language models. The article specifically mentions that just keeping ChatGPT up and running, all the servers, the electricity, everything, costs something like $700,000 per day. Wow. $700,000 every single day just to keep the lights on, so to speak. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. And then on top of that, you have the billions they're pouring into training these models. These things require massive amounts of computing power, and that doesn't come cheap. So it's like they're stuck in this cycle where they need to spend huge sums of money to stay ahead in the AI race. But that spending is also putting a massive strain on their finances. Right. And that brings us to another key point the article makes about OpenAI's reliance on external funding. Specifically, that huge $13 billion investment from Microsoft. Yeah, that's a lifeline, but it also raises questions, right? I mean, when you're that dependent on a single investor, doesn't that give them a lot of influence over your decisions? Absolutely. The article points out that this level of reliance on one major investor can potentially limit a company's autonomy and flexibility. Microsoft's priorities and interests might not always align perfectly with OpenAI's, and that can create friction, especially in a field as dynamic as AI, where you need to be able to adapt quickly to new developments. It makes you wonder how much freedom OpenAI actually has to chart its own course when they've got such a powerful partner in the mix, right? It's a delicate balancing act. And then, to add another layer of complexity, the article delves into the growing web of regulations that are starting to surround AI. Yeah, governments around the world are finally starting to wake up to the fact that they need to get a handle on this technology before it gets away from us. Definitely. And the article highlights Europe's GDPR as a prime example, the kind of regulatory hurdles that AI companies are now facing. It even mentions a specific investigation happening in Poland right now, looking into potential GDPR violations related to ChatGPT. So this isn't just theoretical anymore. There are real-world consequences for companies that don't take these regulations seriously. Absolutely. And the article points out that these regulatory pressures can have a real impact on how quickly AI develops. Navigating all these legal frameworks takes time, resources, and careful planning, which can slow down innovation. And if you're not careful, it can also damage your reputation, right? I mean, if users feel like their data isn't being handled responsibly, they're going to be less likely to trust your products. Yeah, trust is everything in this space. And the article even criticizes OpenAI for being slow to roll out some of the compliance tools they promise, like a media manager for content opt-outs. That kind of delay doesn't exactly inspire confidence. No, it doesn't. And what's worse, as the article points out, it gives their competitors a chance to step up and position themselves as the more responsible, trustworthy option. Right, it becomes a way for them to differentiate themselves not just on the technical front, but also on the ethical and regulatory front. Alright, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Internal struggles, external competition, financial pressures, and now regulatory headaches. It's a lot for any company to handle, let alone one that's trying to push the boundaries of what's possible with AI. It is. But the article also provides this really helpful comparison of OpenAI's models against their competitors. So what's the big takeaway from that analysis? Well, the article seems to suggest that while OpenAI's models like GPT-4 are still seen as the gold standard in terms of quality, their competitors, especially Google, are making up ground fast in terms of speed and cost effectiveness, right? And as we discussed earlier, those factors, speed and cost, are absolutely critical for widespread adoption, especially in the business world. Yeah, if a company can get a solution that's good enough for their needs, but it's significantly cheaper and faster, they might not be willing to pay a premium just for that extra little bit of quality. Makes sense. So, taking all of this into account, what's the article's final verdict on OpenAI's position? Are they doomed, or is there still hope? Well, the article doesn't sugarcoat things. It basically says that OpenAI's dominance is no longer a guarantee. They've got all these challenges they need to overcome, and if they don't address them effectively, they risk losing their leadership position. Right. But it also acknowledges that OpenAI still had some pretty significant advantages, right? Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've got that name recognition, that brand power that comes from being the first to really crack open the potential of AI. They've got their partnership with Microsoft, which gives them access to a ton of resources, and they're still at the forefront of research and development in this field. So they're not down for the count just yet. No, not by a long shot. But the article makes it clear that they can't afford to rest on their laurels. They need to stabilize their leadership, get their finances in order, and navigate these regulatory waters carefully if they want to maintain their edge. Yeah, it sounds like they've got a lot of work to do. So I guess the question now is, can they pull it off? Can they overcome these hurdles and reclaim their spot as the undisputed leader in AI? It's a question we'll all be watching closely, that's for sure. To recap quickly, today we've explored the major challenges facing OpenAI as outlined in Anshuman's analysis, looking at the impact of leadership instability, the fierce competition they're facing, the financial strains they're under, and the growing web of regulations they need to navigate. Right, and now we want to throw it back to you, our listener. What are your thoughts, given everything we've discussed? What strategies do you think would be most effective for OpenAI to regain their footing and cement their position as the leader in this rapidly evolving field of AI? It's a complex question with no easy answers, but we hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights into the forces at play. Absolutely. And we encourage you to keep exploring these topics, keep asking questions, and keep pushing the conversation forward. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. See you next time.